Alright, welcome guys. So in this video we're going to run through a quick walkthrough of one of the sessions that was presented at the Windows Phone Camp series in November. So the first thing I want to do is just take you to our Facebook fan page. Now it's already open here, but we'll just navigate to it. So Microsoft, facebook.com, Microsoft NZ Students, that's the Facebook fan page. And this has recently been fired up, and we welcome you guys to join us and add yourself to this page. But essentially this page will be used to communicate all the information around student activity, from events to competitions to stuff around Windows Phone events, as well as Imagine Cup, DreamSpark, all the standard stuff that some of you may already have been to before or have seen across some of the events that we've done on campus. So you'll notice that on the tabs there's a bunch of different tabs here. You've got YouTube, which is our YouTube channel for videos that we post up, which will have a lot more content around Windows Phone training stuff, so you'll see some of that on the YouTube channel. And we also have this tab for Windows Phone Camp. So if we click on that, what you'll see here is a bunch of information that relates to the November Camp series that we just covered. So from the different demos that we saw throughout the day, there's links related to the content that was covered, from pointing to different hands-on lab stuff to actual presentation decks and so forth. And you'll notice that there's a folder up the top which is located on SkyDrive that also contains a lot of the slides, and even some of the source code files related to the camp. So what we're going to talk about today is the Pigs Can't Fly demo, Demo 1, and talk about how you can actually build an application, a pretty funky looking application, without having to write any code. So the way this demo actually works is, aside from having the two key tools you can use to build out your Windows Phone applications, this demo actually leverages a third-party set of resources, libraries that you can use to build out your own Windows Phone application. So rather than writing code yourself and building stuff from scratch, there's stuff that other people are creating that you can make use of and leverage within your application. So you'll notice here there's a couple of links already to this demo. We've got the Angry Birds clone demo, which is the actual original post, and how to use this actual these libraries. Then you've got the physics library for Expression Blend, which is the actual libraries we need to add to our project to be able to build out our Pigs Can't Fly demo. So if I just click on that and just navigate to that page, this is the actual page for those libraries, and there's a bit of information how it works, and there's videos around what it does. So what we want to do first is download the actual libraries. Just go through the prompts, then we'll run it, and then you'll get the prompts to install the actual libraries. So we'll do that. Alright, so once the libraries are installed, you'll get the final window to close that process down. So what you'll find is, when you go into your computer, into your C drive, and depending on what version of Windows you're running, if you're running 64-bit, which is what I'm running, you can go to the program files x86, or if you're running 32-bit, you can just go into program files. And what you'll see here under the folders option, you'll get this physics helper folder, and that's what you've essentially downloaded, and this gives you the libraries you need to add to build out your project. So there's a version here for 7.1, which is the latest version of the tools, which is the version you'd want to sort of work with if you're building out applications for Mango and so forth. You can go back to the site and look at some of the older versions. If we go back to the site, you can also go to the View All Downloads option and select an older version of the tools if you want to target 7.0. So there is that option. So now that we have the libraries installed on our machine, we just need to consume them within our projects. So what we want to do first is we're going to fire up Expression Blend, which is one of the tools you can use to build out your Windows Phone application. And this is the only tool we'll be using in this case, in this walkthrough. And here I'm going to go New Project and start working on my first Windows Phone application. So I'll give it a name, and this time I'll go with something different. Say the pigs. Let's just make it one word. And you'll notice I'm using targeting C#. 7.1 is the latest version of the tool, and the libraries that I've downloaded target 7.1. If we go OK, Expression Blend will fire up my standard template for my empty Windows Phone application, and now I can start basically building this application. But before I do that, let me add the actual libraries into this project. So to do that, go to the Projects tab, and if you can't see your tabs, you can always go into Window and list all the tabs you have that are actually viewable. So if I click on any of these, I can make them viewable or remove them from the actual screen. In here, I need to go to References, click on the References, right-click on top of it, and Add Reference. And this is where you actually add any third-party libraries into your project, or any extra libraries you need to add that you want to consume within your application. So here I need to just navigate to that folder, which you remember was in my x86 folder, and it was called Physics Helper. And under 7.1, what we need to do is just consume these DLLs. You'll get a couple of warnings that come up, which is standard as part of the physics, as part of adding those libraries. And what you need to do once you've added those extra libraries into your references, just go into Project and Build Project. Now there is a shortcut to it, but sometimes maybe easy just to go to the menu and do it through the menu option. You'll notice at the bottom you've got the build started and build succeeded. So now the build is complete. So by doing the build, what you've done is just added those references, those libraries to your project. So now what I want to show you is if I go into my Assets tab, which again you can view by going to the Window menu, you'll notice that behaviors, you've got your standard expression blend behaviors that come with the tools, but you've got this drop down now. If I drop that down, you've got this new one called Physics. Now these are the physics behaviors that I've just added. Now these are essentially just behaviors that I can add to my project, add to different objects, controls within my project to behave in a certain way. And this is where the power of having to write no code comes into play, in that all I'm doing is giving my different elements within my application different behaviors, and based on that they behave accordingly, and then you can build out your application using these resources. So let's now go back to our actual application and start building this application out. So first thing I want to do is, this is my phone page application that I'm working in. I've got the basic one page, same thing you see when you open Expression Blend with your empty template. What I want to do under phone applications, I want to change the orientation. So let's make this, go under the phone application page, under Properties, Supported Orientation, and under Supported Orientation we want to go Landscape. So I want to just support landscape, and I want to also change the orientation of how this looks on my design face so I can easily work with it. To do that, select the Device tab and choose the orientation to be landscape, and that changes that view. I'm also going to get rid of some of this stuff here, so I'm going to start building out my game within this page. So I'm going to get rid of this content panel, page panel, and application title. I'll get rid of that as well, don't need that. So now I've got an empty page. I want to change the layout of this page to a canvas layout. So there's a couple of different ways of laying your application, your objects on your page. So if we look at change layout type, there's grid, which is essentially rows and columns, stack panel, which is just stacking objects against each other horizontally, vertically, and then canvas. And canvas is all about absolute positioning. So it's essentially just putting things on your canvas. Wherever you put them, they will sit there according to their initial position that they were dropped on. So if we go with canvas, and what I also want to do is drop another canvas, And again, you can just about do your own thing from here on. You don't necessarily need to follow what I'm doing here, but this gives you a good starting point. So if I just drop another canvas here, and in this case I'm going to drop and make it about just over 3/4 of the page, that canvas is going to sit. And that canvas essentially is going to be my game area for this application. That main canvas is going to be an area where I can use to drop other objects outside of the game environment so that they don't impact each other. So now that I want to start building out my physics application, so I'll go back to my assets. You'll notice that I've got physics assets here opened up. Let me just show you some of the things we can do. First thing we want to do is we want to make this secondary canvas a physics environment. So to do that, we're going to add a controller behavior, drop it on top of it, and you notice that this behavior has a number of different settings. We've got gravity, horizontal gravity, drag coefficient, all this sort of stuff that you can change and play with to see the impact it has on the environment. So what we're essentially doing here is giving this canvas the behavior of how it would feel if it was a Earth type environment where gravity would impact it. You have friction and so forth. One thing I am going to do is change here is select the mouse pick enabled option, which lets me actually interact with this application, so I can use my finger gestures to interact with the objects on my canvas. Now that I've done that, I can start adding objects to my page. First thing I'm going to do is add a rectangle, and we can use the arrows here on Expression Blend, the different controls here do different things. So the top arrow lets me select the object, and if I just put my mouse in the right position, I can move it around, I can give it rounded corners, all that sort of fun stuff that you do in design tools. And what I can do with this rectangle is I can also give it a physics behavior. So if I go to the physics object behavior and drop this on top of my rectangle, and now if we look at the properties here, there's another bunch of properties you can set, but all I've done is made that object, that rectangle, act as it would if it was a real object in the given environment it's in, which is a physics environment, has friction, gravity, and so forth. What I want to do is just show you what that looks like, so I can test this application out where I've come so far without actually needing a device. So you don't actually need a device to test out your applications. The great thing about the tools is that it comes with a complete emulator to work with, a Windows Phone emulator that runs in a virtual machine. So you've got a virtual machine that runs the Windows Phone operating system. So the drawback of that is you need a PC that has a sufficient amount of RAM. So ideally 3 gigs of RAM is what you're looking for a 32-bit Windows Phone operating system, or maybe a 4 gigs amount of RAM if you're using 64-bit operating systems. So just keep that in mind. Most of you, I think, will get away with 3 gigs of RAM. So to test this out, all I need to do is I can just simply press F5 on my machine, and you'll notice again that it's build succeeded down the bottom. It's fired up my virtual machine. The virtual machine does take a bit of time to fire up. It is essentially a virtual machine consuming a fair bit of resources, so you don't need to actually close it down once you've got it fired up. You can leave it running in the background and keep on testing out your application as you go and change and tweak it and so forth. Alright, so one thing we need to do is we just need to change the orientation of the emulator. We can go back to the start screen, and there's the save the pigs, and we'll see my object fall off the page. So all we've done there is given it the ability to respond to the environment. If I go back to my application now, I can go to that physics object behavior and make that a static object, and now it'll become a platform. So if I run this now in my Windows Phone emulator, it's a static object, so it's just fixed there as a fixed platform essentially that I can use to use within my application, within my game application. So what I want to do now is add a couple of pictures and so forth. So we have actually made some pictures available for you on our Facebook account. If you go to the Facebook fan page, which is there, and you click on the Windows Phone folder up the top, it takes you to a SkyDrive location which contains a lot of resources, including a bunch of images. So here we've got camp images. You can download that and use the camp images within that to start building out this application as a testing example. But again, you can build out your own application, your own images as well. If we go back into here, I'm going to add. So if I go to Project tab, and I'll just minimize that, right click on the project, add existing item, and here what I'm going to do is navigate and look for some pictures. So I've got a couple of pictures here that I'm going to pull down, and I'm going to drop them straight into my page. So I've got these images, and what I'm doing here is I'm just dragging them straight onto my canvas. I can decrease the size a little bit if I want to. And what again we need to do here is to make these actually respond to the environment, we need to give them the physics object behavior property. So we'll add the physics object behavior property to each of those. We'll leave them as they are default, and if I press F5 now, what you'll see is you've got a static platform with the pigs falling off the platform. So we're starting to see a bit of shape. We're starting to see our game take a little bit of a shape. Pigs dropping from the sky essentially onto this platform. Now I can go to that rectangle and I can Control C, Control V, and that's just a copy paste, or I can right click on top of it and copy paste. But Control C, the keyboard shortcuts are always useful. And if I copy a couple of those rectangles, what you've done by doing the Control C, Control V option is you've actually copied the behavior as well with it. So you don't actually need to necessarily do everything from scratch again if you're just doing repeated, if you're just adding similar objects to your page. So I can put these anywhere I want. I can change what they are, if they're static or not. I can do the same thing with the pigs. Control C, Control V a couple of times, and Control C, Control V a couple of times, and it just adds those pigs underneath what we had originally. And now if I press F5, you'll just see the same process of what's happening with the initial application, except you've got more platforms and more pigs. There's a bunch of other physics behaviors that you can make use of, and some of this you'll need to look into the physics website and see how they can actually be used. But for example, I could take the physics destroy object behavior and add it to one of my pigs. So in this case I could add it to that pig, this pig here, so the pig up the top here. And what I want to do is create a new physics collision, and what I'm going to do is select this pig and this pig. So what you expect to see is that this pig here will basically disappear when it collides with the other one based on that destroy object behavior. So if I press F5 and show you what this looks like, you'll notice that that pig disappeared. So that's a simple way of adding some functionality to your application. And again, you can go away and spend a bit of time, building out your application, trying to see what it can do. I can add simple things like add a rectangle. Let's get rid of the actual curves, and add a physics object behavior to that, and we'll just make it static. And what I want to do is just go Control C, Control V twice, drop this over here, third one, rotate it down, and I'm going to use this. So if I press F5, I'm going to use this as a way to catch those pigs. So my game becomes a way to save those pigs somehow. And I only managed to save one pig in that instance, but giving my game a bit of an objective. And again, you could do different things based on what you want to do. Let's assume that this application is complete, and we want to go and get it ready and finish it off. So at the moment, you'll notice on the emulator that goes from start screen, from the actual application straight into the game. What you want to do is you really want to have the ability to go back to a home screen and come back to the game rather than going to the start screen all the time to restart it, which is what we have to do at the moment. So to do that, you can easily do it in a couple of ways. There's a couple of simple ways of doing this. So what we'll do is we'll add another page to make it our start screen. So I'll go to Projects, right click on Save the Pigs and add a new item. And this time we'll add a Windows Phone page, and we'll call it a start page just to make it simple to Alright, so there's our start page, and what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do the same thing I did before. I'm going to get rid of the title panel, the content panel. I'm going to make the layout also canvas, and you don't need to do this again. This is that you can play around with yourself depending on what you're trying to do. I'm going to change the orientation of the application, so hopefully you all remember how to do that now. You just go to the supported orientation and go to landscape. We'll change the view so that we can work in this mode as well. And just looking at our landscape view, what I want to do is add a picture in here. So I'm going to find a picture and an existing item, and I use Expression Designed to create this. And again, Expression Design is free for all students. You can get it from dreamspark.com. So what I've got here is an image. I'm just going to drop this into my page, and essentially this image is going to be my start screen image. And I can move that up a little bit. So there we go. Save the Pigs is going to be my start screen to my Windows Phone application. Now what I want to do is give the ability to the user to be able to click on this image and navigate to the game, and then be able to navigate from the game back to the actual start screen. So there's actually a very easy way of doing that. If we go into Assets, instead of looking at physics behaviors, if we just go up one to behaviors, we'll see there's a bunch of behaviors we can actually add. And I'm going to add navigate to page action to this image. If you look at the properties here on the right hand side, you'll notice there's a link to documentation. If I click on that, it gives me a link to the documentation which shows how I can use this actual behavior, which is very useful. In this case I know what to do. So what I want to do is keep all the defaults, mouse left button down, navigate to the main page. And that's pretty much it. So if I save this, I want to go back to my main page and also do the same thing here, but in this case what I'm going to do is just add a text block on my main canvas, not on the game canvas. Under properties, if we just go and select that, we can go to home page, and we can change the font to make it bit more visible, and we can decrease the size, center it a little bit, and what we want to do, actually it's probably too big really, let's just drop that down to 18. You probably only want to take a little bit of your surface area on your screen there, and again we'll do the same thing. We'll go to navigate to page action, drop it on the text block. In this case I'll get the option to go to start page. Done. So what we've done there is we've added a control to navigate to our start page. We've got an image to navigate to our game page. By default, when you build your Windows Phone application, it always runs the main page as your start screen. So it opens up that page first, or runs that page first. So what you need to do here is you need to make one small change. That start page that you've added, that extra page, which is now your start screen, right click on top of it and make it start up. So just select start up on the menu, and now when you press F5, what we should see is an application that has a start screen, goes to the game, goes back to the start screen, goes to the game. So you need to make sure that this actually does work. Some of the physics behaviors may have issues when you're running the application for a while, so you need to make sure that they do all work and you're able to go through this without any issues or any breaks. So it's something that's quite useful with the emulator, that you can test out your application, make sure it works the way it's supposed to. Alright, so a couple of other things I want to call out. So we can assume at this stage that our application is sort of near complete in terms of what we want to do. I mean, of course, you would spend a little bit more time trying to create something that's a bit more fun to play with. This is pretty basic at the moment, but for the purposes of this walkthrough, we've got something that works. One thing you'll notice is if we go to the start screen and go to our application, you notice there's a default icon there. You need to change this icon before you get it ready for deployment of your application. So this is one of the things that the Windows Phone team will check to make sure that you actually do have a custom icon that actually describes your application in some way or form. So you cannot go with the default icon that comes with your Windows Phone template. The other thing you'll notice is if I hold my left mouse button on top of that, I can also pin this to the start screen. What that lets me do is lets me pin any applications that I want or that I usually go into to my start screen of my Windows Phone. So this is again a useful feature of Windows Phone, but again something else you need to think about when you're actually adding your images to your phone. So let's just make a couple of changes here. First of all, let's go to our Windows application. I'm going to change, so the application icon is this one here, application icon.png. So I've already created an application, or an image rather. I'm going to add it to this project. So we've got an application icon there, we'll add that, and it'll ask me, do you want to change it? So all I've done there is added an image with the same name, same format, .png, and it just replaces the, it doesn't quite show up straight away, but it replaces my application icon there. And fire this up again in the emulator. So there's our start screen, there's our game. Let's go to the home page. Let's go to the start screen. And you'll notice now that there's the saves the pig icon that I've added to my project. If I hold down and pin this to start screen, again you still get that image showing up which you need to change. So let's go and change that image now. So we'll add another image called the background image. And add that, and again these sizes and so forth of these images can be easily found by opening these default applications within Expression Design or Paint, etc., and finding the exact size. So you need to make sure you get the sizes correct. So if I run this again and go to the start screen, let me get rid of this. So you notice that image just came up as I was doing that, so I wanted to actually show you the experience. So if we go into here and click on Save the Pigs, pin to the start screen, now we've got this pigs icon saved to my main screen. Alright, so now we've got a relatively complete application. We've got, if we go to our application here, we can click on that. That'll take us to the application. We can see how it works. We can try to play with it, but it's very quick and we're not very good at it, so some things to think about, but it works. And essentially within 10-15 minutes you've got an application that runs and works, and that is semi-complete with a start screen and so forth. So now that we're ready with this, we can go to the next stage and think about getting it ready for deployment to the marketplace, which will be in the next video that will cover on how to get this application ready for the marketplace. But you can, as I said, continue to develop this and continue building it and testing it out using the emulator to make sure that it actually runs the way it's supposed to. Thank you.